Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 33 of the Force Choke podcast. We are very excited to bring you a great show today. Before we introduce the council, though, we'd like to say hello to our very special guest. Today, the official Star Wars and Disney artist, Rob Kaz, is Skyping all the way from
Orlando.
So, Rob, thank you for spending time with us. We really appreciate it. We're looking forward to hear your thoughts on the topics for today, all things Star Wars. So let's introduce the council. First up is...
Micah the Kid.
Micah the Kid?
Hello, I am Izzy.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm Tim.
And I'm Lewis.
All right. The council thanks each and every one of you for spending your valuable time with us. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to click the subscribe button. Also, if you'd like to check out behind the scenes of every episode, all you have to do is go on Instagram half an hour before we air, so around 11:30 Central Time. And you'll have the opportunity to laugh with us while we're setting up for the show. You'll probably see us drinking coffee, eating tacos, Micah getting frustrated with technology. Believe me, it's hilarious. You wouldn't want to miss it. So we regularly update...
Disrespect is real.
And post on our social media where you can find tons of our content, including pics, GIFs, videos, artwork, podcasts, etc.
And Tim's
etc.
We are on most of the well-known social media platforms, including Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, Vero, and Twitter. Have you chosen a side? Have you chosen the darkness, or have you chosen the light to meet it? Either way, we're bringing you a great podcast today. So, Rob, once again, thank you for joining us. We have an entire segment dedicated to you later on in the show. But for now, we want to also get your thoughts and opinions on the topics of our show today. So let's get this podcast rolling with Tim, our local Star Wars news guru. It's well known that Tim travels far and wide from the inner rim to the outer rim and everywhere in between to bring us some hot and spicy news. So, Tim, what can you share with us today?
All right, thank you, Sarah. The first thing I want to bring up for discussion is the Clone Wars animated series.
Okay.
Hey.
Hello.
So, as we all know, Clone Wars was abruptly canceled after Disney purchased the franchise. On July 19th, last Thursday, Lucasfilm gave us a gift that was in relation to the unfinished Clone Wars series. So hold on to your butts, laser brains. It was just announced by Dave Filoni at San Diego Comic-Con during a 10th anniversary celebration of the beloved animated series Star Wars: The Clone Wars. We'll be returning with 12. We'll be returning with 12 all-new episodes of Disney's direct-to-consumer streaming service. It was created by George Lucas. The show aired in 2008. Its stories were complex, and its heroes and villains were perfectly imperfect. It became a multi-Emmy winner and is now regarded as essential Star Wars.
Okay, stop there. So it being essential Star Wars, who here has seen it?
I've seen some of it.
You've seen some of it?
I've seen it like a
How about
good
you,
chunk.
Rob? Have you seen the Clone Wars?
I've got a few.
Yeah.
I mean, they're good.
They're good?
They're good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What did you see?
What did I see?
Like, how much of it have you
first 10
seen?
seconds.
I mean, I've seen...
I saw the intro. That was
I
enough.
think I stopped at like season 3, but I would watch it like when I was studying
when it
or
starts
like
getting
right
good.
before I'd go to sleep, and I would fall asleep, and I never like went to backtrack and catch up with what I missed. So I've seen chunks
Oh, okay.
here and there between seasons 1 and 3.
So you've seen Chunks, Micah.
Yeah, Micah.
Chunks.
Captain Chunk.
Yes.
Small chunks.
But sadly, right? What happened, Tim?
Sloth love chunk.
Sadly, it was canceled.
It was canceled.
Yes.
Abruptly.
And it was, well, that's the thing too, is it ended kind of really weird. The scrambling to end it didn't seem like it was a real, that nice little neat bow that we talked about for the first 6 episodes, or the first 6 movies itself. It didn't seem like it had that nice, clear ending, the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Like they were trying to finish it on some kind of decent leaving note, but it just wasn't typical, like a nice, clean story.
Yeah, and then somehow, I guess, deleted, unfinished, very rough CGI was found called I forgot what they called it, like where it was really rough. I mean, it has the voice to it, but like literally the mouths weren't moving, and
Really?
there was you know, a couple of episodes that were like that, where you know Boba Fett was learning how to become a bounty hunter and stuff like that. So
Oh, badass, you mean?
yeah, for real. So I'm kind of interested if they're gonna.
Talking about the Lost Mission.
There you go, the Lost Missions. So I mean, I wonder if they're gonna just finish those up and then add a little bit more and complete the whole thing. Because I mean, from the what's it called, because they put a trailer out for it
Yeah.
for the new
Trailer
season.
looks awesome.
And so I wonder how they're gonna wrap all that up, or if it's already done and they're just waiting for the streaming service to put it out.
Yeah, I think it's already done, or should already be done. But the plan is no, it's not done. I'm sorry. They have to polish all that stuff up.
But I mean, they gotta have something pretty good, pretty well
Yeah.
underdone.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Just to chime in, they're launching that new streaming service, so they're going to need a ton of content.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
That brings a legion of fans with it, and animation, respectively, to say movies doesn't cost nearly as much. And I heard you saying that there was a bunch of unfinished footage. That just tells me that when the hammer came down, when they sold LucasArts and Lucasfilm and all that to Disney, part of the legal, we talked legal earlier, they had to cease and desist all current projects, including some really awesome video games. The Darth Maul video game, a Boba Fett video game,
Oof.
and this project. So by ending it, they could clean slate the whole universe. But now that they've got 20th Century Fox coming in and all that fun stuff, it's going to be content. So you'll see Disney doing a lot of projects like this.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Well, you know, and how do you feel like when they I don't think we have a question like that later on, but how you said, Rob, clean slating Star Wars. How did, I don't know if you were a fan of the expanded universe. You know, how did you feel about that? Just, you know, kind of off topic a little bit from the Clone Wars, but how did you feel when that happened?
Well, when you ask me as a fan, you know, I certainly loved like Old Republic and things like that, where there's just the lore of Star Wars, and just to know that just got wiped away is one thing. But from, I mean, I'm still a fan point of view, but just a little bit more objective, I still enjoyed it. It still was something, a lot of fun that I experienced. And just because it's not technically connected anymore, you just have to look at that with a grain of salt and say, you know what, I had fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people lose that with these new films. They get so involved, like, no, this isn't what I wanted.
Yeah.
You know, just enjoy it. Because if you enjoy it, you go see it, maybe they'll make another one, and you'll like that one. And in the end, if you start hating on everything, then they just stop making them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Wow. I think you got a little bit more in the Clone Wars, Tim?
I think Michael was one of those fans earlier today.
How so?
Last Jedi.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, we were talking about Last Jedi.
We were talking about Last
I know,
Jedi.
you really didn't like. I mean, it's.
I said I liked the movie. I just didn't necessarily like what Ryan Johnson, brought
was
from
doing
it.
too, yeah.
Overall,
Maybe we can talk about that a little
can
bit
talk about
more.
it later,
Yeah.
to
you said you
justify
haven't-
my reasoning, not saying we should burn down Disney or anything
Oh
like that.
my
It's
God.
not what I'm- It's not what I'm talking about.
Oh my gosh.
Burn you down first, Tim.
What else you got
Tim will
with
be our
the Clone Wars,
sacrificial
Tim?
lamb.
I haunt you, the ghost.
As long as it's not the
Oh,
goat.
you know, speaking of
ghost
that,
of,
I wonder what y'all's opinion is
Just want to make sure.
on this has nothing to do with the Clone Wars. You know, when the Jedi become a Force ghost, do you think you could use one of those proton cannons from the Ghostbusters to capture one?
I mean,
That was funny. That's just meant to be funny.
Yeah,
Tim. You
yeah.
don't have to think about that.
as long as they don't cross the stream.
But that was necessary, though.
You never cross the stream.
All right, Tim. What else you got on the Clone Wars, man?
Shoot. I think, yeah, so we talked about the Lost Missions, right? Do we have the date for when it's going to be released now?
I think sometime in October is the projected date for the streaming
Fall
service
of,
to start.
of 2019. So
Yeah.
it will be coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, August. Yeah, so I think that covers it, right?
Well, let's see.
Yeah.
I think, well, no. We got another part here. So it says that StarWars.com recently caught up with Dave Filoni, who's a supervising director, who discussed the shocking return of the Clone Wars. And so we're going to do a reading of the interaction between StarWars.com and Dave Filoni.
That Space Cowboy?
Yes. StarWars.com is going to be represented by Izzy, right over here. And Dave Filoni will be read by Micah. And so we're going to hear their interaction right there.
Okay.
This part right here, don't worry about. You use that later.
Okay.
Okay?
So I am StarWars.com. Don't look at me like that.
And I'm Dave Filoni.
Did you ever think this would be possible, that we'd get here?
No, I didn't. I really didn't.
What can you say about the fans' enthusiasm over the years and really their role in making this happen?
Well, thankfully, their enthusiasm is relentless. The love of these characters and stories hasn't diminished. I actually think their voice has gotten louder as the years have gone by. It's been very humbling to have their support and to have the people continue to hashtag me, hashtag save the Clone Wars. I love that.
What does it mean to get to finish it?
Personally, it's very rewarding. Any opportunity to put the final pieces of the story in place is meaningful as a storyteller. I'm happy for the opportunity to define these things and at the end of this part of the Clone War. It also makes me reflect on all the people that I got to work with over the years. It reinforces the things I've learned from George. It reminds me of the important elements that go into making Star Wars. So, it's nice on several levels, and I think for the crew that's still here that worked on the Clone Wars, they feel that as well.
What do you think it is? It's 10 years later now. What made this show resonate so much with people and made it stick with them and gave it the strength to come back?
I think the variety of stories was a big part of it. You also can't underestimate how important it was that so many people grew up with the show. Clone Wars was a piece of Star Wars that older fans might have initially not taken seriously because it was animated, but that wasn't a barrier for kids. They loved the clones and identified with them. Ahsoka gave kids a character that was like them, someone their age that was experiencing life's challenges and learning along the way. Plus, having a new episode each week really allowed us to explore what was going on with the new and legacy characters in a dynamic way, including Anakin and Obi-Wan. I think the stories left an inedible impression, and of course, George knew it would. He always knew.
Very nice. So George Lucas
cool.
knew it was going to work.
George Lucas!
He had his arms crossed and just leaned back.
Yes. Overseeing it all.
Disney will take care of it.
So I know some people, I don't want to say some people, but I've been reading that there's some fans that want Dave Filoni to take over Lucasfilm because of everything that he's done with the Clone Wars and, you know, some of the input he's had in regards to the series and how much it's beloved.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you guys think?
Wait, you're talking about taking over
Kathleen.
Kathleen Kennedy's position?
I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah?
Well, because a lot of the projects he's been tied to has shown not just success for Star Wars itself, but the fans have really resonated with that itself. You know, the fans really enjoyed a lot of the projects it seems like he's tied to versus, well, I don't want to say versus other things, but it's just as of late because you have this kind of negative spin on almost anything that's being produced by Star Wars. Like, well, I'm going to get pissed off for this reason, or I'm not going to like it because of this reason. But just a lot of those things that it seems like Filoni has touched have really like been able to encompass as kind of what he was, you know, the dialogue that he had initially said, but older fans as well as fans coming in outright. Because I know that one comment that was really with me when I first heard of the Clone Wars, I don't really watch too many animated things, so I was like, all right, whatever. But then eventually, you know, I think because of this podcast, you know, and the fact that it was on Netflix, I started watching it, and that's how I really my love for Anakin himself really grew. Actually seeing how it was portrayed in it, how I was seeing like his evolution, or de-evolution, if you will, to the dark side, and how it just became he became such a much more rich and deep character that we didn't really get to see going from episode 2 to 3.
Yeah.
Especially with maybe even the directing from George Lucas and how he was portrayed.
And that says a lot too. I don't know how you guys feel about this. I was watching something a little bit earlier today. It was a little video, and it got me thinking that from what the executives at Lucasfilm, after it was sold, were the reason they really didn't want George Lucas involved. And of course, this is just from I guess hearsay and what other people are thinking or saying, is that Lucasfilm, after it was sold, that they wanted to give fans a movie that fans would like, as opposed to the reason they wanted to kind of scoot George Lucas out was because, or his ideas or his story was because George wanted to get from point A and tell a story to get to the point B, C, and then D to end it. Okay, hey, now I have this arc where the characters are developing from point A to point D, and that part is complete. Whereas Lucasfilm was saying to the effect of, okay, yeah, that's all great and all, but we want to do a fan movie. And so I think, I think maybe that's what Dave really did with the Clone Wars, is he started on point A and he really didn't get to that point, C or D. But it was a really great, like it said here, the kids grew up with Ahsoka and the clones.
Oh yeah.
And you see them progressing from one area, to the next, as far as growing up and learning lessons and things of that nature. And maybe that's why some fans might want Filoni to take over, because maybe he sees that kind of potential to create a vast story like that, and people really care about the characters.
Yeah, it's like he's almost taking that road in between.
Yeah.
Like Disney diverged off and said, well, they took the safe route.
Mm-hmm.
Things that they knew people were going to like without necessarily finishing the story.
Mm-hmm.
But then Filoni, it seemed like he was able to encompass both, continue the story while also serving it to the fans where they can appreciate these things more so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know, what do you girls think?
Dave Filoni is a G.
Is it G?
Yeah, I mean,
Capital
maybe give him like a bigger role.
Was that?
Give him a bigger role. Like, not necessarily like run the whole show, but like maybe make them equal.
What's his official title? Because I know he's already up there, but
I don't know, creative
director?
Maybe something like that. Yeah, I would think.
Do you know, Rob?
No, I don't actually.
I'm trying to think of what it is. I know it's like, but it seemed like he was pretty high up there. At least like
he is creative.
one of the top dogs as far as
I think
the animated series
the
is
animated
concerned.
stuff. Yeah.
So
Possibly.
he is a capital G.
Mm-hmm.
But he could be a
Absolutely.
capital double G if he takes over. No, I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't like that. Sorry.
All right, Tim.
Just stare at Izzy long enough to be like, yeah,
I know, right?
let go
I'm
of it.
like,
Let
yeah.
go of it. It's not funny.
The next thing I'd like to talk about is Mark Hamill and John Boyega's simultaneous post on Instagram. Mark Hamill and John Boyega have both shared countdown images to Star Wars Episode 9. This may or may not suggest that information about the production, which starts filming this month, will start appearing soon. Hamill and Boyega both shared the image at the same time of their respective Instagram pages. Mark Hamill used the hashtag 9 will be fine, all in good time. We can now probably assume that Mark Hamill sharing this image should probably put an end to any concern that Luke Skywalker won't be appearing in Star Wars Episode 9. The question is, how big or small will his role be? What does everyone think? And what we all know, Lucasfilm's level of secrecy is through the roof, but knowing that he posted this the same time Boyega did, it's likely that both of them are involved in the project. In related news, production set to begin in the later part of July. We should see an announcement featuring the cast list hopefully very soon.
So I'm curious, what does Rob know? What do you know? What can you tell us?
I know that Mark Hamill loves to play jokes on people.
Yeah,
that's true.
So anything coming from his official Twitter, any Instagram, I mean, they could have met up at a bar somewhere and just been like, let's play with these people. What do I like to believe? I like to believe that he can reappear after disappearing in that last film and then come back and kick some ass. But it's a different day at Star Wars where a lot of fan gratification comes into play. So. He's got I think a 3-picture deal. Part of that picture deal was he had to keep his beard, but I guess that's gone now. But again, he is the trickster, he is the Joker. You can't believe it.
Yeah.
How did you like his portrayal, off topic of Star Wars, of the Joker?
His voice acting chops are just some of the best in the industry. There are voices you wouldn't even know that are him that are just like, wow. That being said, he was in a lot of B-roll things back in the 80s and 90s, but as the Joker, I mean, he's got a demented sense of humor, so I think it just works all the way around.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
It's almost as if he was given notoriety too when he was reading out some of those Donald Trump tweets as a Joker.
Oh yeah,
that's some of the best stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But I mean, yeah, episode 9. I'm not concerned with the guys. Are y'all?
With episode 9?
No.
Yeah.
I'm not. No, I mean,
Don't worry.
What?
Well, what we just talked about, episode 9.
Yeah.
I think that I've always seen Star Wars as fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's still fun for me. I'm going to be 46 years old in January.
What?
Huh? And it's still fun for me. You know what I mean? Even kind of like, not to steal what Rob said, but let's wait to see what they give us. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
And for the most part, I've enjoyed everything they put out. So as a matter of fact, I'm waiting for Han Solo's to come out so I can buy it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
because I remember I said that in part when everyone was still questioning Han Solo, and I was like, just respect, the process, let him do it. And I think it was really great. I don't understand why, everyone's being stupid about it, but
because they haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be true. Yeah, and I think that kind of goes to like, I'm wondering, are they reapproaching episode 9 with a different, different glasses? Like, are they going to try to? I mean, I know J.J. Abrams was. It seems as if he has to. He had a certain vision for episode 7, but left it open for the next director. And then it seems like part of my grievance with Rian Johnson, without going too far into it, is that it seems like he ripped it in a much further, more extreme direction. So with Abrams, like, is he going to try to hone it back into his initial vision, or is it going to be even thwarted in a different direction because of is Disney going to go back to, or Star Wars, Lucasfilm, are they going to go back to a more quote unquote safe direction to bring these fans back to the table after already seeing decline with episode 8, already seeing decline with Han Solo, then already have these backlashing, like they confirmed was it I think a Boba Fett movie, they confirmed an Obi-Wan movie. It seemed like there's a couple things that are coming out, and then all of a sudden the fans are talking shit. So Disney was like, you know what, everything's on hold now. And I almost feel as if that's like a ploy from Disney saying like, be happy with what you're getting, or you're not going to get it. I don't think they stopped these projects, but I'm just wondering, because of all this going on, is Abrams still going to make an episode 9 for what he envisioned, or are they going to pretty much put some of those regulators back in to make it a more safer project to allow people?
When you hire a director like him, he did so well on The Force Awakens in box office terms, and the fans embraced it, that they can't question him. They have to literally hand it over to him and say, do what you were going to do, because you clearly know what you're doing. I mean, look what he did with the other Star franchise, where, it took it from, basically just no one's talking about it to a blockbuster film. So,
absolutely.
With any director, I worked in film for about 10 years, and when you get a director, usually it's whatever they say within the budget. Producers come in and they tell the director what to do, but in this case, we talked about the producers on Star Wars being a little heavy-handed and who would you like to see in there, and that kind of thing. And I think they've gotten to a point now where it's so constricted they can't get the best directors. They can't, like, they will never get the Steven Spielberg. They will never get the guys who want to work on these films, who are amazing directors in their own right. What they're getting is the guys who are willing to put up with all the junk that these people throw on them. So hopefully they let him do what he wants. I believe they would let him do what he wants, but it would be curious to see if they continue from here on out with the Star Wars franchise the way they have been, which is like multi-blockbuster budget, this and that, you know, where like the Marvel route, where they have like an Ant-Man film come in and just totally take everyone by surprise and there's no expectations.
Yeah, I like that.
I think that would be great. You know, I mean, and one of the questions later on, I think I forgot to print out the question pages, but I'll text them to you in a minute. But you know, it's great how they did Marvel. You know what I mean? Just the way it's branched out like that, and I wouldn't mind seeing, you know, Star Wars do the same thing or go down the same route, and you know, get, you know, directors that are willing to take praise and have thick enough skin to, you know, accept fans that don't get what they're putting out. You know, I think they've made good decisions on the directors so far. I mean, who knows what they would have done with the Han Solo film had they been able to finish that one, the previous directors. But Ron Howard, you know, came in and I think he knocked it out the park.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think we were very fortunate that they made that decision to go with Ron Howard. I think he did a great job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like Rob was saying, you know, if they're choosing these directors, you know, that are willing to put up with fans' critique, or, you know, I don't even know if you want to call it critique. Some of it is hate.
Yeah.
You know, it's straight up hate. I mean, you have to have thick skin for that, I would think, because there are some people that are just totally relentless. How do you call it? Trolling, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just trolling
Yeah.
to
Just-
get a satisfaction out of somebody, or just
They just like, I don't know,
I like seeing you
picking on
frustrated.
people.
Yeah.
bullies.
Yeah.
Bullies. Cyber bullies.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I like trolling better.
Oh no. But no, I think you know, the decisions that they've made so far, I agree with them. You know what I mean? And
You like Jar Jar Binks trolling?
A second?
Jar Jar trolling? Never mind.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
you like people trolling on Jar Jar, is what you're saying? You know, I watched, I think it was on Facebook, a very short story on Ahmed Best, the young man that played Star Wars.
Yeah.
Star Wars played
Star
Star Wars.
Jar Jar?
He played Jar Jar Binks.
Oh,
Poor guy.
Yeah, he was going through suicidal
are you serious?
thoughts.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. Kelly Trent too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, even
her
even Daisy
works,
Ridley
like-
had she put up, was it something about to do with like gun rights or something? And then just all these like unrelentless wave of people just came in, started talking crap. So she went completely dark on social media.
Oh wow, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah,
Was that before? Do you remember, Rob? Was that before episode 7 came out?
No, it was just after.
Just after?
Yeah, she had a really strong Instagram account, and that happened, and she went dark. And she cited just the amount of, like, she was basically getting death threats.
Oh
and
my
the
God.
same thing happened to Kelly Tran. She was pinned as the scapegoat for the entire film failing. Like, she was the worst part. In fact, I think she was one of the best parts, because she had heart and she could act.
Yeah.
She even had the most memorable line to me. But in the end, the fans, I don't even think they're fans. I really think they're the opposite of fans, because they're doing the worst damage possible to not only these films, but getting the best actors. If you're an actor on the rise, you better second guess picking a Star Wars film or getting picked for a Star Wars film now, because it can take your career in two different directions. And even if it's a success, you could get skewered for your performance or your role or the way the directors have you acting. Like, you know, Mark Hamill did not want to portray himself the way he was in Last Jedi, but he did it because he's a professional.
Yeah.
But in the end, people respect him enough based on his body of work that he's avoiding all of that criticism. But imagine if that was his first role, people would have just ripped him apart.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Absolutely, yeah. Really, they're like anti-fans.
Yeah, that's a good point, Micah.
Like, I wonder if they're actually, like, I'm sure there's some, like, bit of a divergence where, like, some of them were fans, but they're just overtly critical and turned into this huge mess. But then with, like, the culture today, it's like some of them, they cloak themselves as fans while doing whatever they can just to sit there, just for the, probably the benefit of themselves.
Did you say they cloak themselves?
Cloak
Are
themselves,
these the other Star franchise fans?
No, I don't think so, but that would be interesting.
Tim, we got down to it.
I wouldn't think
cloaked.
I wouldn't think that's the case because Abrams had such a huge hand in both of them.
Too.
Huh?
What?
I wouldn't think so because Abrams has had such a huge hand in both that if, like, say if they continue this attitude behavior to episode 9, is Abrams just going to walk away from everything that Star Trek is doing? Like, I know he's more in an executive producer role, but I'm just saying, like, that wouldn't make sense. That it was because, okay, I love Star Wars, but I enjoyed those Star Trek movies. I'm not saying I hate Star Trek. I mean, if I had to choose one or the other, Star Wars would be on top every time. But I'm not going to sit there and be like, I'm not going to, act as a Star Trek fan and go try to, take a shit on the Star Trek, Star Trek movies. That doesn't make sense. It's just people to sit there and just, I'm going to act as a fan and I'm going to do whatever I can to make your life a living hell. And especially that's the problem with internet. If you say you don't like something, here comes the waves of the things that you don't want.
A fan is someone who can appreciate it, maybe point out some things they don't like, but in the end, they will continue to go and enjoy the experience.
Absolutely, yeah. And then that's the same conversation I've had with you, Lewis, because fan is short, for fanatic.
Yes.
How are you going to sit there and be like, oh, I'm crazy, energetic about this. I like what you're doing. I like what I see. I like, the prospect of what's going to come out. And then the next turn, like, oh, you guys are a piece of shit. You should die. Really? That's not the same person talking.
And I don't know if you've keyed in a new term here on the show, anti-fan, but that's what it seems like.
Hashtag anti-fan.
Hashtag anti-fan, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what it genuinely sometimes, not all the time, but, because you can say that, just like Rob said, I'm going to steal that from him now. He's had some really great comments on the show, but, you can still appreciate something and be like, I wish they wouldn't
You can
that.
respectfully disagree.
Yeah.
Not tear somebody apart for their own opinions.
Yeah.
It's that I think that we're missing now is that there's no respect for differing opinions.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
And internet just magnifies that, like with Daisy Ridley and Kelly Marie Tran. Just magnifies it because then people jump on the bandwagon and then
they're all, it's fun to hate on this.
Yeah.
Look, somebody looked at my stuff.
Yeah.
What I said.
They liked it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting what seems like what they say, and it's interesting to see like what takes track. It's like it's almost as if like if you don't pay attention to it, like it kind of just like it's there, but it kind of just goes away. But then when there's so much focus on it, that they just like, oh, forget this. Because I even remember before episode 7, like you had this thing like, oh, Kathleen Kennedy and this and that, blah blah blah. Like they're trying to do everything they can to show the minorities and this and that. It's like, it's a movie, watch it, enjoy it.
Yeah.
And because they were trying to say something that because Finn was black, it's like, really, watch the goddamn movie or shut up and don't watch it. No one needs your opinion like that.
Yeah, and it's such a vast universe. Finn could have been an alien or a woman, or that doesn't even matter. You know what I mean? Or a robot. With how long is it going to be till AI gets rights?
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like a living being itself.
Wasn't there a conversation about that like a while back?
Did you?
It blew my mind.
No, wasn't there a conversation like someone created a robot somewhere? And they're talking about like it voted or something like that.
Oh, I haven't heard.
It was like a couple months ago. I don't remember what the hell it was, so I don't want to, I guess, delve into it too much. But they were talking. It seemed like it was something that was bordering that concept. Oh, okay, we have artificial intelligence. We have a robot. Like, when does it get to do the things that it wants to do? What?
Well, I mean, that goes into a whole other topic of.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was like, I'm not going to delve into.
Yeah, what do you call living and non-living, right?
Is it a sentient form?
And we kind of even got into that with on one of our episodes where we really concentrated on Vader. Is he now, like Obi-Wan says, is he's more machine now than man? You know what I mean? And it's like
Machine have rights.
yeah, you know. I mean, you know, but that's a whole way other level
Yeah.
podcast.
So basically, we can just take away from this: if you're a fan, be a fan. If you're an anti-fan, stop being an asshole and go away, or go to the other Star Trek universe, whatever. Just kidding.
Oh my god!
Did their fans even do that to their own film?
I haven't
I don't
heard
think
it.
they did. Well, the social media wasn't as big then.
well, no,
I think it's because Star Wars is infinitely huger now,
Yeah.
especially being owned by Disney. But I don't know. We haven't. Well, because it even seemed like the last Star Trek movie came out, like it wasn't even close to what any of the Star Wars movies that have been released have been. I don't know. We'll see when they do the next one. Because it seems like this culture that we're kind of talking about right now, it seems like it's only been escalating the last, anywhere from 6 months to 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's been like 2 years or so since the third Star Trek movie came out. So we'll see when the fourth Star Trek movie comes out and see if people come out and start like talking massive crap about it.
yeah. Interesting.
I mean, some tells me they will, but...
Yeah, the Tarantino one.
I'm really hoping they do it because I heard about that.
What?
Thank you for bringing that
He's
up,
gonna
Rob.
be in the movie and he's gonna be
Yeah.
directing the movie.
Quentin Tarantino.
In a
He's
Star
gonna
Trek
Simon
movie?
Pegg's all-
Oh, that's cool. I would actually watch that one then.
Yeah.
That's
me
the
too.
one where everyone dies.
I know.
When he came in, when he approached them about it, his only sticking point was, I get to do whatever I want, with whomever I want. And they were like, okay, cool.
Oh gosh.
Sounds good.
Gene Roddenberry's flipping over in his grave.
Probably. Picard, kill him. Trek. Why did I say Trek? Just everybody kill him.
Oh my god.
That'd be interesting.
All right.
That'd be violent deaths too. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I think Tim, you still got
Spock.
a Spock.
You gonna bring back Spock and kill him?
Oh,
Me too. I was like,
Nimoy. Nimoy's rolling over in his grave now. Don't let Tarantino do this. Don't.
Oh,
Can you imagine Tarantino doing like a Boba Fett film?
Oh gosh.
ooh, yes.
Wow.
That would do it.
I would really like
yes,
that.
we were talking about like
But
gangster movies.
there's so much
he would do
expectation
so good
level,
for
but
that.
can you imagine how much fun that would be?
That'd be
Oh my God, that would be
amazing.
Tarantino comes and says, I can do whatever I want to, and then they come back and says, that's fine, but you can't kill Boba Fett. All right, we're good with that. Boom, everybody dies except for Boba Fett.
Yes.
Maybe a disintegration scene.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Because usually his dialogues are very like
Intense.
like,
Oh,
very
yeah.
thought out and then drawn out.
If we ever had a rated R Star Wars, this is the time. It would be dialogue alone, probably. But you got the Game of Thrones directors too coming in,
What,
so.
is it 3
we'll see.
F-bombs for an R rating?
Huh?
Is it 3 F-bombs for an R rating?
No, you say
two
two
F-bombs.
F-bombs.
2 F-bombs?
You can say one F-bomb in a PG-13
In the
movie and it's
first
still there.
minute,
As soon as you
it's
drop
gonna
it. They had a movie.
First minute.
What was that movie? It was the sequel to Get Shorty called Be Cool or something with John Travolta.
Yeah.
You know, in a rated R movie or a PG-13 movie, you can't say fuck more than once. Well, fuck that. And so automatically they
So we
just
just
drop it
went
to a
rated
rated
R.
R. Yeah.
Yeah, you get to decapitate as many people as you want.
But yes. Oh my god.
Is that Boba Fett or is that Tarantino? I don't know. No,
All right, so the next big news I wanted to mention is Star Wars Episode 9's official title. We've asked recent guests what they would entitle it, but I want to remember you heard it here first. Episode 9, Return of the Sith, would make a great title. Episode 9, The Knights of Ren, sounds pretty great also, but sadly, as of yet, there is still no official title for Episode 9, but stay tuned into our podcast and we'll scour the galaxy for any news related to the new installment in the series.
It's The Last Hope, guys. Just let it go.
The Last
Hope.
The Last Hope.
That's the name of it. I'm telling you right now.
Man, I heard a really good one the other day and I freaking forgot about it.
Tim, you gotta jack that.
And that's
I
not
know,
mine.
it was
That's
so
not mine,
good,
Rob.
I
I
was like,
saw
this
that
is
from
it.
somebody else. They like it was a collection of The Last Jedi and then A New Hope, and it just made sense. I don't know. I think The Last Hope would be a really, really nice kind of like classy title for Star Wars. if you can get classy.
Return of the Midichlorians.
Really? Worse than Last Hope?
What's that?
What's up?
Do you think Disney's going to shut the door and say this is the end of the chapter?
You know, we talked about that with our last guest.
No, the last
This
guest had
one.
mentioned Last Hope, right? She's the one who said.
No, that was something I mentioned
was
a
that
long
you?
time ago, but she said she liked it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think she said like that. To answer your question, I kind of feel like they may want to try to shut the door on this timeline, at least for a little while. But just because it says it in the title doesn't mean, 20 years, 30 years down the road, be like, oh, well, here's the fourth trilogy to this timeline. So I don't know.
What would they call it? The second sequel trilogy?
Yeah, the sequel.
The sequel to the sequel.
trilogy. I don't know.
Oh, man.
We're in the year 2100. We have now 50 episodes of Star Wars.
Oh, I think it's called like A New Order or something like that.
The New Jedi Order? Something like that?
Yeah.
That'd be true.
That's from one of the old books.
Well, not a New Jedi Order. It was just like a new. Shit, I
The New
forget what
Order?
It was. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like it's originated from,
They're taking it from there.
from the expanded universe.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right.
So, wow, Tim, your travels have you bringing us some fantastic news from all corners of the Star Wars universe. But it's time for Star Wars horoscopes.
Yes.
So this horoscope is mine.
It's
the
all
Leo,
yours.
and the character for Leo is Han Solo. So Leos love to be the star of the show, ambitious, egotistical, and strong. The lion also likes to think that they are in charge, even if they're not. Sometimes Leos can get cranky if they don't get the accolades they deserve. Even if he is a stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder, Han Solo is pure Leo. Han's ego gets him into trouble, but it usually gets him out of trouble just as often. It's his tenacity and bold plans that everyone loves about Han. Of course, his headstrong methods get him frozen in carbonite for a little while, but what Leo doesn't want a statue made of them somewhere.
So you're a Leo.
I'm a Leo. Yeah.
Egotistical was the main thing I pulled out of that.
Yeah. I like how it's like underlined 8 times.
Egotistical, the fair, honorable Judge Goolsby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a strong too, so.
Yes. And you're wondering why I put you as the judge, right?
Lioness.
Always thinking.
Yes.
Even though the parenthesis says, even if they're not.
Oh my goodness.
Whale.
So is that true to your nature?
I don't think I'm egotistical.
Well, everything else.
Take a look in the mirror.
Oh, wow.
God.
I don't know. I mean,
Ambitious? Strong?
I like to think I'm ambitious. I like to think I'm strong. But I don't really. I like taking charge. It's not really my thing. But I'll just like watch somebody else and I'll be like, hey, maybe you could fix this.
Ah,
But other than that, it's accurate, I guess.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Very nice. So for all the Leos out there, they are represented by Han Solo.
Han Solo.
Han Solo.
Wow.
Sarah, that's very existential. Yes. And like the Leo, Han.
Darth Vader's not a Leo?
Huh? Who?
Darth Vader?
Darth Vader?
Duck
He's
Vader.
probably,
Did we
like
cover
a,
his
he's probably like a
horoscope?
Taurus
I
or
don't
something.
think so.
That is so scary. Okay.
One of these days, I'm sure we'll cover it, Tim. But
Ambitious.
like the Leo, Han there is going to brag about his Kessel Run in 12 parsecs as ad nauseum. And much like Han, we here at the Force Choke have a reason to brag as well. We have a special guest with us today, official Star Wars and Disney artist, Rob Kaz. Rob, once again, thank you for your time. And during this segment, we want to give you all of our attention. We put some questions together that will help us get to know you a little bit better in regards to your creativity and your Star Wars fandom. So, are you ready for your few questions from the council?
Fire away.
All right. So, Sarah's going to begin with the first question. Sarah, if you will.
Hi, Rob. So, as Lewis mentioned, right now we're going to spend a segment getting to know you a little bit better. Questions will range from your artwork to other fandoms to the ancient aliens theory. Oh, that's cool. Say that last one out loud. Anyway, Rob, the first question I have for you is, how long have you been doing official Star Wars and Disney artwork?
Well, they're split licenses at this moment, but I started Disney around 7 or 8 years ago, and Star Wars just before Force Awakens, so maybe 2-3 years now, something like that.
Cool.
Wish I had an exact date for you, but I've not been keeping track.
No, you're good. Can you describe the process of becoming official? Like, have many wonderful...
Basically, I got invited, in a manner of speaking, where, the licenses are controlled by publishing houses and you get to know them. And so I was approached to do the Star Wars license, well, really both licenses and some other ones too. But from there, it's way different from any other art form. And, if you're talking about like my personal work, all I have to do is paint it and deliver it. Where with licensed work like Star Wars, being one of the most difficult right now as far as the process, you paint it, you submit it, they approve or disapprove based on certain factors like that blaster bolt is supposed to be red, or we don't like that character's pose, or this is completely wrong for Star Wars, you've got Spock in the background, things like that. But the added thing is with Star Wars artwork, George Lucas has to have first right of refusal on every piece I do. So that's kind of cool, but also a little bit scary. So, like, I'm not going to paint that Dark Jar Jar dartboard, but we'll purchase a piece of 2 Scout Troopers on Endor or something like that. So there's that process it's fairly involved, but in the end, that involvement makes it worthwhile is you can go out there and say, yeah, I'm officially licensed. When someone walks up and goes, you get in trouble for that, right?
Oh, that's cool. Well, do you have any pieces that you've made for Star Wars or Disney that have been your favorite?
That's probably too tough a question. Certainly I've got ones that were some really difficult ones, but, there's one that has a good story behind it. I did a Scarif Forces. It's called Scarif Forces, about a Rogue One, and I did the piece not having any information from the film because they give us some stuff to make our products off of the painting. And George ended up buying it, but we had also sold it to another collector at the same time, just in case. So that guy still wanted it, but in the painting there was a Death Star over Scarif. And in the film, that's when, not to give anything away, but that's when bad things happen to Scarif. So I had to take it out. So the original, George has it with the Death Star, and then another collector has it without. And I guess eventually they're going to put it in that Lucas Museum. But to me, that's one of my favorites, just because of the backstory.
That's really awesome, Rob. I think I heard you say that they're going to eventually put it in the museum. That's going to be in California, right?
Right, right there. I think the campus of UCLA, or was it USC, near the Coliseum. And it's going to look like a spaceship. But I think 4 pieces Lucas has bought for me, I deliver them to the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art address. So I'm assuming, but I think it's pretty safe.
Yeah.
In that way.
That is really
awesome.
I'm going to ask you personally, like in your heart, how did it feel knowing that George Lucas bought a piece of your artwork?
Oh man.
That's actually one of the highlights of my career. I
That's freaking amazing.
It's actually I wanted to keep the check, and in today's days you can mobile deposit and just keep the check. Well, the check was nice enough. George is a very generous man, and I will never criticize him because of how generous he is. But I couldn't mobile deposit it because the amount was large enough that you couldn't. So I took it to the bank, and I'm like, "Can I keep this?" And they're like, "But you want to deposit it, right?" I'm like, "Yes, but after it's deposited, can I have it?" Because they shred them. and they're like, why? And I said, look at the name. And they go, who's that?
Oh my God.
I will come over this counter.
So I wanted to choke him, and I'm like, okay, can I just talk to a manager, And so this guy walks over, and he's just like, how can I help you? And I'm like, I want to keep this check after I deposit. And he goes, why? And I go, well, George Lucas wrote it. And he goes, who's that? I'm like,
Jeez.
So in that, I love that, that happened, but at the same time, I didn't get to keep the physical check. Just that moment was one of like, oh my God, I can't believe that. I'm a huge fan of his creative works, and here he is. I guess you could say a fan of one of mine of his.
Yeah.
So it's like approval written all over it. Just vindication, validation, whatever B words I can come up with right now.
That's such a great story. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
great.
we're very fortunate to have you agree to come on our show. I feel very honored that you're here. I mean,
it's either this or I don't know, paint. So, no, I appreciate it. You guys are doing me a favor. You're getting my name out there, and that's the best thing possible. So thank you. I mean, really.
Oh, that was very nice. And going back to the museum they're going to open USA. Do you know around what time frame that might be? I would.
Well, I know. I don't know the exact time frame. I know that they've laid the ground out. I don't know if they started building. I just actually flew at Los Angeles, and I didn't see them building it. So I know that there's a strip of land set aside. They are building that huge stadium out there for the LA Chargers, but that's another story. But the museum itself has seen so many setbacks. It could have been built like 10 years ago in Chicago, but Chicago would rather have a parking lot. So they turned it down out there a couple times, and he tried to put it in San Francisco, and I think in the Presidio area, if I'm not mistaken, roundabout where that Naboo-looking place is.
Yeah.
That art museum or whatever it is. But they didn't want it there either for whatever reason. I mean, it's got a huge backstory. So just the fact that it's now on approved land and they're ready to go and there's a budget and all that means, we're closer to the end than we were, a little while ago.
Absolutely, that's going to be awesome when it's finally completed. I know my wife has been wanting to go to California for a couple of years now. Hopefully, they can complete that in the next couple of years. I'd love to go there and be like, hey, see that piece of art?
Yeah.
He was on our show.
That
would be so.
He's a huge art collector, and I didn't go to art school or anything, but I love looking at art. Maybe that's where all this started. But he has one of the biggest collections of Norman Rockwell art, and I'm a huge fan of that too. So, I mean, yeah, he'll have a lot of Star Wars and Indiana Jones and Willow or whatever, but in the end, he will also have contemporary masters like that. So hopefully they'll do it as quickly as possible.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Sweet.
All right. So, Rob, we understand that you're dedicated to your artwork. Can you discuss the very first official piece you did?
Yeah. I did 5 sort of all at the same time. I'm an oil painter. That's kind of how I work. But the first painting I put brush to canvas, paint, whatever, was when the characters all kind of met for the first time in A New Hope. The main characters. So it's when they're on in Tatooine, walking into the hangar where the Falcon. You see the Falcon, and you see the backs of R2D2, C-3PO, Obi-Wan, and Luke, with Chewie leading the way, and then Han's in there doing something up into the ship. And that's like, the core group just meets, and the lighting and everything, and I'm a big Ralph McQuarrie fan, so I tried to capture some of that lighting that he had in the original concept art back when the Falcon was a blockade runner. Just really, as a fan, I wanted to capture that key moment.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Ralph McQuarrie. I mean, I love that they're using some of his original design in the newer movies. The Flame Troopers and I guess Sand Troopers and stuff like that.
You'd be shocked how much there is. JJ went nuts, like that area where the Falcon was undercover. That whole design of that area was in a Ralph McQuarrie painting.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Things like that, you'd never even know.
Yeah, such a master. It's so I love to look at art just like yourself, Rob, and it is amazing. I was watching. I think it was a documentary on Star Wars, and a portion of it was focused on Ralph McQuarrie, and just they were just pretty much had the camera on him, and he was painting, and the realism that he had of just the Falcon and the landscaping and the landing bay that it was at. I think it was amazing just to watch him paint was kind of mesmerizing. I would look at it and be I can't believe that's a painting. I'm watching him paint this and it looks so real, but just amazing. I'm glad you brought his name up.
Okay, and how does that compare to your latest piece of work, like your style, your subject matter, and the colors you decided to use?
You learn a lot about a company when you're doing painting, so it's a learning process. So what I'm doing with Disney now, in the beginning I was doing something completely different, in technically speaking. With Star Wars, I have certainly learned a little bit more on how to do space, where it's not just a black background. You try to incorporate things to colorify it. And really, when they asked me to join, the biggest lesson that I had to learn quickly was integrating my style into the Star Wars universe. So like making Yoda lifting the X-Wing a little more colorful than it was in the movie, as if I was a concept artist. That to me was a real learning curve, trying new things, and now I feel like I'm learning where I can really play that up. So, like engine light blooms and doing the J.J. Abrams banding from a hot light, things like that. I'm learning and pushing the envelope of what I am comfortable with, and really trying to do a lot more photorealistic faces. I just had a piece released with Greedo leaning over. And Han sitting back in the cantina, and I painted Harrison Ford's likeness, and they published it. So hooray!
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
When I first started, I would never have tried that, but now I feel a lot more comfortable. So it's all with being an artist, you always want to push yourself, because the minute you stop is the minute everybody passes you by.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Awesome.
Okay, Tim?
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, so Rob, if our fans would like to connect with you, what is the best place to find your art?
To find it, galleries is really where mostly I sell the Star Wars stuff. A lot of artists will do like conventions and things like that and sell online. My business model is to go through galleries, because my works tend to go for a dollar amount that I want you to see it in the right light. I want you to see it in a frame, and have someone, an art consultant, explain to you the nuances of what I was trying to do, and really do it justice. So you will find it in a variety of different places, but basically just anywhere Star Wars artists hold the gallery, you should find my work. But also in theme parks. I've heard it on a cruise ship, the Disney cruise ships, and even some random things like the Epcot Art Festival. You'll find my work, actually all of my works, in various booths. So we're really growing. I mean, it's a very it's early on in this program for fine art and Star Wars. I mean, you could find a lot of lithographs and serigraphs, things like those the faux posters. Mm-hmm. That's been what Star Wars was for the most part. And I don't want to belittle any other artist, because it's amazing stuff. I'm a big Drew Sturgeon fan, so poster art is just it's an art in and of itself. But certainly you'll find my works in where high fine art is sold.
Nice.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Very awesome.
Right.
So our follow-up question is a 3-3-1. So 3-3-1 is a force choke original where we offer you 3 choices, and you get 3 seconds to make your decision. You must give us one answer. All right.
All right.
So you ready? Okay. So the scenario is your next meal is with a character from the Star Wars universe. Who would you rather be with? 1, Yoda. 2, Darth Sidious. Or 3, Kira.
Well, probably Yoda.
Okay.
Just because I want to know what he stole from Luke and how that tasted compared to that bowl of slop he served him.
Kit Kats.
But at the same time,
they're Kit
Kira
Kats.
is on that badass ship. And I'm sure it has some pretty good food.
That's true.
Oh my goodness.
But Yoda, it's got to be Yoda.
All right. It says who's got the? Is Micah? You got the next question? Right?
Is my name next to it?
Yes, it is. 60.
Take it away.
Soak up that wisdom while you're eating with them.
Yeah.
All right, so Rob, my question for you is: when it comes to other fandoms, what are some of your favorite? And don't you dare say that other space franchise.
Then I won't.
No, we're just kidding.
No, I really am a fan of that other space franchise, Babylon 5. No.
Nice.
The other, I'm going to say Trek, because what are you going to do? But I also love, like, Lord of the Rings, the Marvel. I mean, you can't not like Marvel, what they're doing with it in the films right now. Things like that. I mean, there's even, like, just random stuff. The Fifth Element, things like that.
Yeah.
I love these wildly imaginative films.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed Valerian, City of a Thousand Planets on the plane the other day. I mean, these aren't like blockbusters or anything, but they're thoroughly enjoyable.
Yeah. Oh, great.
Excellent. I was gonna ask you something along the lines of your fandom of other franchises. Oh, that's what I was gonna ask you, Rob. Was do you care for the DC universe?
Parts. I don't care for some of the stuff they do. I watched the most recent, was it Justice League, where they did the digital mustache removal. I could not see that. But again, Wonder Woman, one of the best comic films of all time. Just period. So much fun. Like rooting her on every step of the way, and she kicks ass. So
yeah.
I mean, when it comes to DC, going back to like the Christopher Reeves era, I mean, I grew up with that. So
yeah.
I mean, he is Superman to me. But I still enjoyed it, and I think that's where my like when I'm a fan of something, I don't get fanatical, but yet I'll enjoy it and respect it. And when they come out with a new chapter, I will go see it. So Superman, one of those things. Batman, another one of those things. Batman Begins was one of my favorite films.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the trailers for like the new Aquaman and stuff, and I'm looking at the sharks going, Sharknado, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Just a little too weird, trying to make Aquaman a little too cool, and it comes off as campy. But, in the end, it looks like fun.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you, and it looks like I guess there's going to be a lot of services now coming up. Of course, Netflix being one of the biggest ones right now. I think CBS followed suit with their own streaming service, and HBO, and now most recent DC has announced that they're going to have their own streaming service with anything that is DC related, going back to, like you said, the Christopher Reeves movies, and even so far as going back to the Batman 60s campy style TV show and movies. Does that interest you at all?
It depends on the price. I mean, we talked really, really early in our conversation, we talked about content, and I just don't know how much content they could realistically charge for. Mm-hmm. You do have the DC television series, The Flash, Supergirl, things like that, that I enjoy. But as far as content goes, I just, depending on how much they could get, at what price, I would have to see it. But when you compare it to, say, what Disney's doing, where they have literally, I think they just approved, the shareholders approved it today, where they have all of the Fox stuff, which includes like Blue Sky and stuff like that,
Oh, wow.
all the way to the whole Disney library, and everything, ABC, ESPN, all that. I mean, talk about a mega company.
Mhm.
They have
That's huge.
they have the library, the content that you would need. Plus, they are I think they're majority shareholder now in Hulu.
Yes.
So they have Hulu as well, and I think you'll see Hulu take a darker turn, and a lot of that content go over to Disney that isn't darker.
Mm-hmm.
So, comparatively speaking, DC, I give them credit for trying to forward think. If you would have said a few years ago Marvel was going to be as big as it is, a lot of people would have laughed at you. So never say never.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just curious how you felt about that. A lot of people are cutting the proverbial cable cutting, and it seems like a lot of people are doing the streaming services now, just for their content. So I was just curious. I think the price point, the last I saw, was going to be between $69 to $79 for a yearly subscription.
Dang. They think highly of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I thought as well.
That's a crazy thought, though, because they're going to have a cheaper price in the beginning to get it, off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
But then, with the cable cutting, it's like, okay, you got the HBO. Like, if you don't pay for it, you got to pay for that.
Mm-hmm.
You got to pay for that app. You have the Netflix app because they're still going to have the original series.
Mm-hmm.
Then Disney, then this and that. It's like you're going to be spending the same much money. Yeah, exactly. It's like you're spending the same money.
Mm-hmm.
Just now, instead of one content provider, it's dispensed between, say, 12 different carriers.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Well, CBS kind of proved that you could do it with a very small amount of content.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'm not a subscriber of CBS.
Yeah. I think the
I was
only
like,
time I
CB
watched
who?
CBS is when the NFL was on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's like I only care about the major ones when they have football. Other than that,
Yeah.
Guess we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see, right? I think that comes out in October, November also. I'm not too sure. All right, Rob. So the next question that I have for you is, how long have you been a Star Wars fan?
Oh, jeez. My first experience, I actually saw Return of the Jedi in the theater, and I was a little kid, and I was scared to death of Jabba the Hutt. That is kind of where it started, but really, I started becoming a fan when the toys came out, and my cousins had the AT-ATs, and I had like a random snowtrooper and Tauntaun kind of thing. And I just remember really loving the toys, and then when really came into stride when I got into animation, and everyone around me was just nonstop Star Wars fans, to the point where like their whole cubicle was set up like little shrines to Han Solo or something. And I got into it. I started watching them more and really appreciating more the art of Star Wars and seeing the film not as just a film, but as a pioneering feat in film that it was. It was a really achievement with everything from the way they motion captured things and go motion and all that to prosthetics and random how many fades can we put into a film. Because Georgia probably holds the record for that.
Yeah.
But just as a fan of the art, like we talked about Ralph McQuarrie with the backgrounds, not only the concept but the matte paintings. Like if I had the wherewithal, I would own matte paintings from Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
Because when you look at them, and most of them were on glass, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they are.
That's difficult as a painter. I mean, painting on glass is kind of an interesting medium. And even a lot of the Disney guys back in the day did that too for the multiplane camera. But just for me, that's why I'm a fan. Just the models and all of the technical stuff that went into it. And then I love the characters. Han Solo, love the arc when he's shot first anyway. So just seeing him progress from a scoundrel to the hero, that's really fun for me.
Han Solo? Wasn't he a general? right? Okay. Hey, so Rob, I was going to ask you, and you kind of touched base a little bit about this. Can I ask you, how do you feel where the new phase, or do you like where the new phase is taking the fans? Speaking of the sequel trilogies.
Yeah, I'm in love with the stories, the Star Wars stories division. Like Rogue One to me is a perfect example of what they could and should be doing, because it fits very tightly into what the films are already there, but at the same time it doesn't compete. It presents a standalone story with great characters and great emotion. So I really love that. Obviously, they had their problems with Solo, but I think that had more to do with bad marketing than a bad film. And thoroughly I enjoyed it. If I were Kathleen Kennedy and that title came up, I would say do what Marvel did with the facial, making Han Solo look younger. I think they could have done that. But that's going to be something maybe 10 years, 20 years from now they might revisit. But when it comes to the new phase, I liked where JJ was going with the lore of Star Wars. One of my favorite aspects was when Rey touched the lightsaber or the crystal or whatever, was giving her that sort of out-of-body experience where she was revisiting all the places that saber had been and been impacted with the Force. I really loved that. And when Rian Johnson had Luke throw it over his shoulder, I was like, yeah, that's not where I wanted them to go. But in the end, they've introduced some really, really fun characters. You know, BB-8, he's a continuously strong character for me as far as sales goes. They've kept Chewbacca, you know, really, really cool. But they've also tried to turn the chapter and you know, lately a little bit more aggressively than I would have hoped. But certainly, I hope they bring it back to where I liked with the Guardians of the Wills, and maybe I heard the Knights of Ren, which with JJ being involved, I'd say there's a chance, but I don't see that happening except maybe on a spin-off, and the odds of that are even less likely given how people are loving to hate nowadays. But personally, what I want to see them do is take Solo and do the Marvel thing where it doesn't directly connect, but I want to see a Kenobi movie where you're following Kira to Tatooine, and then maybe Kenobi meets back up with Darth Maul.
Yeah.
Not to give away if somebody hasn't seen it, but I'm assuming if you're listening to this, you're a bigger fan of Star Wars than most people.
Yeah, exactly. You know, that those are all great thoughts. I like that. You know, and so I'm going to ask you on that kind of note. Rob, soon Rian Johnson's going to be working on a new trilogy separate from what we're familiar with Luke and Vader and Leia and all that. You know, so he's been given the go on that. There's going to be a new Star Wars animated series beginning on Disney XD. This coming up October.
Did you hear the name of the new character in it?
We touched base on it in our last episode, but if you can refresh us.
Spoiler alert, it's Kaz.
Oh, really? Nice. That is awesome. That was intentional, right?
That's George Lucas.
Yes.
I'm like, so now when you Google my name, you're going to have to use my full name.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so we're going to have that series on Disney XD coming in October. The guys that do the Game of Thrones, after they're done, they're going to get their own Star Wars movie series that's supposedly totally separate from Rian Johnson's timeline, totally separate from the timeline we're familiar with. And then Jon Favreau, who Sarah here may or may not have interviewed on one of our podcasts, he will be working on a TV series for the Disney streaming service next year. So I'd like to know the answer to this question, Rob. Personally for you, is this too much Star Wars?
No. As long as they diversify the story enough. So, like, if the Game of Thrones guys do say an Old Republic, the origin of the prophecy kind of thing, it would feel like Star Wars, but it would have nothing to do with this maxed out franchise of, the Skywalkers, the Darth this or that. I think you could really get away and into something where people would really get into it. Say, like Star Trek is doing with their television series, where they've just completely gone so far back that they've touched on something new. But personally, I'm a fan, so there's never enough. I want to see more and more and more. I can't help it. But from a box office perspective, you're seeing declines now. So I think maybe a fresh approach might help. But in the end, if box offices decline on a lot of these films, or at least don't meet expectations, that's when you know it's too much.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Micah's too much sometimes.
Have we been declining? If so, then Micah, it's gotta go.
Or you gotta go do it.
All right, Rob. So we like to ask our guests a variation of this question. So you, sir, are in charge of the Star Wars movie series that Benioff and Wise, the guys from Game of Thrones series, will be working on. What time period of the Star Wars universes would you make it in?
Yeah, I think I just said that I would love to see them do the Old Republic, where you have maybe factions, and they've proven themselves so capable of doing different kingdoms and factions and interconnected politics coupled with battles and all that. So you go back to the Old Republic, where it's very much a Knights thing, Knights of the Old Republic. I think they'd be very good at that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That'd be sick,
I've seen what I thought would be cool, or maybe a cool design, and I've seen this almost like a steampunk versions of Star Wars, where like they have some kind of utility belt, right? And their lightsaber, I guess, must be connected to this power source in order to operate. That'd be kind of cool to see something like that on screen, where they're going far back with the technology and like you said, the origins of the Force and maybe midichlorians and all that stuff. I think that'd be spectacular, and like you said, factions and stuff like that. That'd be really awesome.
Ebon Hawk too, gotta have that.
The what now?
The Ebon Hawk. Come on, guys. Star Wars fans.
Come on, guys.
We are regular Star Wars fans. That's our catchphrase. Regular guys.
Google, use it. No, it's the ship from the Old Republic series, the Knights of the Old Republic, and the sequel to it. It's kind of feels like the Millennium Falcon, but it looks you just want to live in it. It's so cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, is that the one that they use for the like the trailer for the Knights of the Old Republic game?
Probably. I mean, they would have to.
Mm-hmm.
I think it sounded really familiar. I couldn't place it.
Yeah, Ebon Hawk. Yep.
Very nice.
I want to see Darth Revan. That'd be sick.
I know.
Darth
Malgus.
Yeah.
Malgus.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Wow.
The whole mask thing with the split down the middle.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
That'd be sick.
Force vampire.
Interesting. So Rob, you've
Darth
been
Bane.
very busy lately, traveling and such. The team would like to know, how can our fans or your fans get to meet you in person? Like, do you attend conventions, Comic-Cons, art festivals?
Sure. Yeah, I do both the New York and the San Diego Comic-Con. I'm not there the whole time. I usually just come in, do my thing, and then I have a show outside of it, because for fine art, the Comic-Con floor is not necessarily where we want to be. As fans, yeah, but as art salespeople, not so much. But you can find me at those two. I think the New York one is in October. And also I do gallery appearances all over the country. I'm still in the middle of a California tour where I started in Lake Tahoe, then I went down to San Diego, and then up to Laguna Beach, and I'll be ending it in San Francisco. So I get around California quite a bit, but Florida, New York area, I was in Texas a few years ago. I mean, just there's so many places that I frequent, but the Disney area, cruise ships, that kind of thing. So hopefully you can get out to one of the more touristy areas, Vegas, things like that. But there's, if you live in Nebraska, probably not going to see me all that much. No offense to Nebraska, but
Yeah.
one of those states that I see from the air more than I do the ground.
Yes.
Okay. So Rob, I'm going to give you a pop quiz. Can someone put 30 seconds on a timer?
30 seconds?
Yeah.
So Rob
30
has
seconds.
30 seconds. Mike is getting his stopwatch ready
Okay.
Where's
So
my phone?
on his phone.
so
You
we're
already set an
gonna.
alarm?
Hello.
Just remember there's a lag, so I get at least 1 or 2 seconds added.
Okay. 35 seconds.
32 and a half seconds.
Okay. So we're gonna see how many Star Wars characters you can name in 30 seconds.
Oh my, do races count?
Like the race, like a species?
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
Sure.
Right? Why not?
Sure.
I'm just playing. I'm just
Yeah,
playing.
right.
Okay. Ready,
So start wrapping up.
set, go.
Luke Skywalker, Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Yoda, Leia, Ambassador Organa, her dad, Commander Cody, Darth Vader, Darth Maul, Sidious, Snoke, Han Solo, Chewbacca, L337, oh geez, I can't remember who owned it. What? Oh my gosh, this is so much pressure. Kira,
All right.
All right.
Time is up.
up.
Time is up.
What was that, 50?
15.
Wow.
So here's that list you can use now.
I knew
Okay,
that.
the
There you go.
score.
Oh, is that what that list for? Awesome.
Yes.
So Rob, you got 15 characters, so that makes you a Jedi.
Jedi.
sweet.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's what I always wanted.
Very nice.
Where's the Sith on this list, bro?
There is no Sith on this
What are you
list.
talking about?
Don't.
Sidious, Maul, I remember Vader.
No.
He had a certain range depending upon how much you got. You were like
Yeah.
ranked.
So if you only said 1 through 5, if you only had named 5 or less characters, you would have been a Scruffy Nerf herder.
Wow.
If you did 6 to 10 Padawan,
6 to 10
if you had one more, you could have been a Jedi Knight, Master, Grandmaster. And that's what I'm saying. Like there's no Sith oriented on there. I'm like, loser.
Wow.
Good
Oh
job.
my goodness.
Good job, Lewis.
Sorry.
So Rob, I promise no more pop quizzes today.
Thank you.
Our council here likes to go to Fantasyland from time to time. So let's bring the show back to reality. Rob, in your opinion, can we have a Marvel Star Wars crossover?
No.
Okay. What I'm trying to say is a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away may infer that it perhaps is taking place in a galaxy maybe within our own universe. What are your thoughts about that?
Like, would it be fun just to do that? I mean, if they could do Ready Player One kind of movie, I don't see why you couldn't mix the characters in that context.
Oh, that would be awesome.
That came out. I need to buy that.
That movie is awesome. Don't hate on
I
it.
know.
Sarah.
I said I need to buy it. Dang.
I haven't
Can you
seen
just
I
imagine
liked it. It
he's
was
running
really
through and all of a
good.
sudden you hear Vader's lightsaber and like, oh shit, run!
It was really
Yeah, I mean, they had Iron Giant, which is a big win, but like, with the whole some of the scenes in that, if they just had the Millennium Falcon flying over, or like you said, Darth Vader coming out and choking some of them, I would have been like, yep, this is good.
Yeah. That'd have been awesome. I haven't seen it yet.
It's
so
good, man.
I heard it was
really
really
good.
good.
Great film.
All right, so Izzy, please don't mess up the next question.
Look here,
Cool.
Micah. Do we have to have another little chat after the show?
I guess.
I didn't think so.
Well, I said yes.
So we've come to the question on everyone's lips. It's a Star Wars pickup line time.
wow.
What we want to know is,
Oh Lord.
is Tim going to try a Star Wars pickup line on Rob?
Oh my gosh. You serious? Rob, I'm sorry, man. Hold on. They're doing anything for the show nowadays.
Is Darth Sidious? Huh?
Where?
You're right there.
We know you can read it, Tim. Don't
Yes.
don't delay it.
Yeah, there's
I
not.
feel like I'm about
So,
to
so like
inappropriate
in the
force
past, every time we have a guest, they have me do like, well, not me, but you've done it before, right?
Yeah, you made me do it last
It's
time because you
mostly-
failed miserably.
Oh yeah, okay, well.
But you
I
get
want-
through this one, buddy. We got
They
you.
always throw in like Star Wars pickup lines that I'll say to the guests. Well, we've had. Well, I had the girl guest last time.
Yeah.
There was like a girl before that too.
He just if you weren't creeped out by us now, like just give it 5
I
seconds.
demanded equal rights, and I wanted these girls to do pickup lines too for the guy guests.
You want to?
But,
I got some right here.
But
Will your wife be okay with that, Rob?
well, we don't have.
You know what? I plead the fifth.
We'll pass on that on this episode, but that's. I'm not gonna do that. Pickup line.
Oh my goodness, you guys are too funny. Okay, so I think you got the last one, sir.
Okay. So Rob, now that we know you a bit better, it's time for you to rank the Star Wars movies for us. So what we do for every guest, and the council has done it as well, is we'll rank the Star Wars movies against each other from 1 to 100, or 0 to 100.
Yeah, to add a
100
0 in.
being the absolute best movie in the franchise, 0 being worst garbage. You never want
Ever,
to see it again.
yeah.
You take it out of
Trash
the
can
DVD player
Pepsi.
and burn it.
Wow. Okay, I'm gonna go that far.
Okay, sorry.
Well, you did rank
You got a little carried
35,
away.
so-
Pretty harsh.
Anyway, so you're just ranking them against each other. No outside movies like Ready Player One, Titanic,
Yeah.
yada yada.
Titanic is your go-to on that?
I said Ready
It's
Player
always
One.
Oh
a
my
go-to.
god, your
It's
second
just, it pops into
go-to.
my head. So are you ready, Rob?
So I'm naming like if my favorite film of all time is Raiders of the Lost Ark, that's 100. But my least favorite is, I don't know, The Notebook at a 0. Is that what you're saying? Or is it like...
Well,
a
you
rating
can. It doesn't have to be your least favorite is 0. Your least favorite could be like a 35, like Izzy gave.
Oh my goodness.
The Phantom
We're-
Menace, like a 40.
But the premise is that when we go through all the Star Wars movies themselves, you're only gonna be grading it versus other Star Wars movie. So
Okay.
when we go through episode 1 through 8, you're just gonna be comparing it to that, not to Raiders of the Lost Ark, because that's a great movie on itself. But just Star Wars is Star Wars, basically.
Gotcha.
Very good. We got it.
All right, we got it.
Go.
So
Cheers.
Episode 1.
episode 1, Phantom Menace. Thank you.
Episode 1, Phantom Menace. I actually enjoyed that. I waited in line for that. I don't know, I give it like a 50. I mean, it wasn't bad, it wasn't great, it has its good spots. But Jar Jar.
Jar Jar.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
always
Everybody.
Jar Jar.
Jar Jar.
Jar Jar.
Gosh darn him.
So the next one, I think, gosh, episode 2. Was that the one with the Geonosis and all that junk?
Yeah. Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. They go to Geonosis and everything.
You know, I actually didn't like that as much as the first one, even with Jar Jar, just because it felt a little meandering. But I'll give it a 49, just technical, just not quite there. But I know a lot of people disagree with me, but my preference, Anakin was kind of whiny in that one.
Yeah, sure.
Then
So-
3,
Yeah,
episode 3, we're going to go a lot higher. That one was actually a lot of. It started was episode 3 because that opening shot all the way to the ending, it had a good arc to it, like a buddy cop film. And of course, younglings being slaughtered.
Okay.
Gotta go with it.
Yes.
Why is there
That's a
really
plus
like
10
that?
at
I
least.
love that part.
We'll go with 70 for that one.
70?
Okay.
Winding up to the meat of what I like those episodes. But are we putting Rogue One next? Is that what we're doing?
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna go
Yeah.
chronologically, just through.
I really liked Rogue One. I'm going to give that a full 85.
Ooh.
Okay.
I liked it better than A New Hope that followed it. But then again, I didn't experience A New Hope in the theater, so if I was rating A New Hope, it would be, if I did Rogue One 85, A New Hope would be 84.
Okay.
Have
And
you
then Empire Strikes Back, my absolute favorite Star Wars film of all time. Kushner and Lucas together, great job. That would be probably, if we're just doing Star Wars films, that's got to be the 100 of the group.
Oh, yay.
Which one?
Then the Return of the Jedi, a little bit less. I'm going to go with 95. I mean, the whole Ewok battle, I think they could have made them a little bit cooler, maybe some teeth.
They're biting through the body armor.
Some claws.
Yeah.
With an arrow that bounced off so obviously. And,
But their birding
not
skills
quite
are
like
gone.
walking into a door, but certainly no blaster bolt through the head action.
I'm sorry. What was your score on Return of
Wait,
the
why
Jedi
not?
again?
We're doing 95 on that.
95.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a pretty good score.
One for every Ewok killed on screen.
Oh god! and one more time for our notes. New Hope was what score again?
84.
84, yeah.
84. Thank you so much.
Rob, what about Solo?
I forgot about Solo, didn't I? I enjoyed it. It wasn't terribly great. I think if I gave Clone Wars a 70, Solo's probably going to be a 69.
All right. Okay, so we stopped at Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. So now we are at
Episode 7.
Force
yes.
Awakens.
The Force
Force
Awakens.
Awakens. Oh, wait, we didn't do the Christmas special or
the Ewok
The Ewok
movie.
Endor.
special.
Yeah.
Hey, when I was a kid, Return to Endor was pretty cool, but obviously not everyone thought that.
I remember
If you
watching
don't know
that.
what it is, again, Google.
Yeah.
The little girl and her grandfather trapped on the planet with Wicket.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remnant forces. I mean, come on, it's all there.
it's interesting, at least.
So, all right, Force Awakens. I actually really enjoyed that too, but I'm gonna give it a 94 just because it wasn't quite Return of the Jedi, but had a lot of fun visiting. I mean, I didn't care for Rathgars and that kind of crap, but introducing a new franchise is never easy, and I give them a little credit for trying.
Yeah, the Raptors did seem a little out of place.
Yeah.
They did, but I mean, like you said,
I would have rather seen them have like a full-on space battle with the Conja Club and the other group with that Scottish guy who just disappeared off the planet.
Yeah, that would have been pretty cool.
Yeah.
Maybe he was Irish.
What's his name? Kansu Leech or something like that?
Kansu Leech, that's
Good to see you.
yes.
All right, and the Last Jedi.
So, Last Jedi, I'm going to go way back down to, let's say, 68. Can't give it the 69. It's not as good as Solo. I didn't like where they went with it, but there was some really great moments, like the whole sacrifice to bomb that dreadnought. The scene with Finn and Rose. I actually really like that. I know a lot of people hate her, or at least the character. But if they could have just made Luke actually be there at the end, it would have made the world to me. Would have made the movie to me, rather than that Force Ghost thing, or whatever he was, a projection.
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you feel about speaking of Force Ghosts, Yoda showing up?
I know they made the casting off of the original one, but he looked like he had a big upper lip to me. Otherwise, I really liked it. He was totally a character, Frank Oz, revisiting the magic. But again, he looked a little funny. It was another Carrie Fisher, made younger moment.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Who?"
And speaking of Carrie Fisher, I know I'm going to bring it up, and Micah is cringing over there. The whole, he calls it the Mary Poppins or Superman.
Oh, what? We're talking about? They're talking about
Oh, I
Stewart.
thought you were talking about something else. Were you
When-
talking about when
Stewart,
she
Meryl
gets...
Streep.
No, when
Yeah.
she Mary Poppins it back
Oh,
to
yeah.
The ship.
to the ship.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that?
I thought she was dead. I was like, here's how they're going to do it. And then when all of a sudden her eyes opened back up, I'm like, oh, damn. But yeah, it felt a little hokey, but at the same time, that's what we wanted to see as fans. More Force, less Senate,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
But what about the other Leia that we're talking about.
Which one?
The rumor. It seems like a rumor that's being probably recycled. There may not be any traction to it, but the possibility that Meryl Streep was going to come in and replace Carrie Fisher as Leia in Episode 9, since she's not technically killed off yet. Like, how do you feel about a brand new actress coming in to fill such an iconic role like that?
Yeah, in this case, I don't think it would be a good move. I'm pretty sure they probably scanned Carrie's face. It's in a lot of the contracts now for digital doubles.
I heard about that.
They could probably get by doing it that way, and she had so much facial stuff done that she didn't really have a great range of emotion to begin with in the later years. But God bless her. I hope they don't replace her. But they did it with Dumbledore, so why not Leia?
That's true. Oh, here's something interesting. That tweet just came out. I guess from Variety magazine, Disney and Fox 21 First Century just approved the $71.3 billion merger, expected to be completed the first half of 2019. So Disney's finally going to get a.
You know what that means for Star Wars, don't you?
Talk to us, Rob.
21st Century Fox had the rights to distribute home movies for the Star Wars, the original series. So you want to see the original A New Hope in a box set with the other ones? Now you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Unlocks all that.
Yeah, and I know when Disney first purchased it, I know that was a big thing for a lot of the fans. A lot of them didn't want to see the special editions, I guess you would call them.
Right.
They just wanted what George Lucas had originally given us. You as a fan, how do you fall there, Rob?
So I love what they did in the original film as far as technological advancements, but certain things like making Han shoot second versus the original, it changed the whole character for me. Mm-hmm. And I know it's something as simple as shooting first, but for me, and I mentioned this before, that I love that character because of how they made him go from a scoundrel to a hero. Mm-hmm. And in the beginning, he was just, the shoot first kind of guy. I loved that. So little things like that. But then the whole musical number in Return of the Jedi, I didn't think they needed that. Just random stuff. You would never notice some of the things that changed. They graded the film a couple different ways. They added some cutscene stuff. The scene with Jabba, where you meet Boba Fett for the first time, I think that changed Jabba's character too much because he was this badass villain, and literally Han is walking all over him.
Yeah.
2 episodes earlier. So I didn't think. I mean, it was cool just to see it, but it should have just been an outtake. I don't think they should have actually added it into the film.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you added in the scenes in Echo Base where the Wampa's loose.
Oh yes.
It makes it into a slapstick comedy. Mm-hmm. Like, no, don't do that. And I'm glad it didn't make the film, but in the end, if it did, it would have made a Jar Jar moment.
Yeah.
So I very much love the original versus what they ended up making later on. But certain things like, digitizing certain fly sequences, the model shots, mm-hmm. I approve of those because, some of them were like really, really not good.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the matting thing. I don't know if you guys knew about the poor matting jobs they did because they were rushing to get it done. Mm-hmm. They almost didn't release. Some guy lost his job over helping it be released. I think it was a Fox. In the end, things like that, I'm all for. But if they re-release the original, ungraded and painted over, whatever have you, rotoscoped, you will see some really bad effects, mm-hmm. Glitches that they happen.
Yeah.
Especially when you're on a budget.
Yeah, and I'm curious, from George Lucas, what deleted scenes he put in, or special effects that he wanted to use. I was talking to Micah. This was a couple of months back, and he wasn't aware of one of the best deleted scenes that I wish would have made it into Return of the
this
Jedi.
was like a year ago, man.
Was that a year ago?
Yeah.
Possibly a year ago. Was the one where Luke was like building his lightsaber. You know, and Micah's like, why wasn't that put in the movie in the special edition?
Yeah. The sandstorm sequence would have been nice too.
Yes, that was pretty cool too. Yeah, absolutely. After the sail barge exploded and all, they take their own separate ways. Yeah, that was pretty cool too. I agree. But I mean, I don't know. I think with that merger happening, you know, a lot of fans might be happy that we get to see the originals without the special edition effects and all that stuff. I think
you'll sell a few copies. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. You gonna buy one, right?
It depends. I'd love to see something more than just the original film. I actually have them on VHS.
Oh wow.
Going way back. So if I want to watch it, I can. But for me, I look for more content. Like I said, I'm a fan of the art, so I would want to see like a booklet that comes with it that shows something more than just the unedited. I would love to see a collector's series or something of that nature.
Yes.
That'd be cool,
Yeah, that would be awesome. So, I mean,
maybe Lucas's first like sketches and designs and thoughts into it or something.
There you go.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
They could.
The original script.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
Because I could see them releasing like two different ways. Like if they did like a collector's like that, and they had completely the original, you know, movie that was released, and then they have a different one where it's kind of like a cross between the one they redid in the early '90s, like where kind of like what you're talking about, Rob, where like they cleaned up some of those scenes that were just kind of iffy because of technology. Like if it's the same scene, they just touched it up, you know, due to digital animation or whatever, you know, just keeping it cleaner with the CGI, but then not having those scenes like as you were saying, Han walking over Jabba at Mos Eisley, where it just and then even then it looks really kind of rough. Like if they took that kind of stuff.
You want a remaster and not a re-edit.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is I feel like for Disney, almost it seems like they could go both directions. They could have that first package where it's completely, the first thing with the collector stuff or whatever, and then they have a remastering, but taking out the things that they added in, where they again manipulated, say, Han shooting later.
They found a pristine copy of the movie in Eastern Europe, and now they can scan it because I guess they had no celluloid versions that were scannable. So they at least have that if they want to do that. And they could completely regrade it from the original theatrical.
Oh, cool.
I'm curious, Rob, and this doesn't have anything to do with the theatrical versions or the original versions. This is more about a character from the movies, which is Han Solo, and how you said, the special editions almost changed his character by him not shooting first. I'm curious, in your opinion, we had a small debate here, and I think we came to a consensus, but I just want to get your thoughts before anybody else tells you what our consensus was. But on The Force Awakens, when Han Solo faces his son, Kylo Ren, on that long platform, and they're both holding the lightsaber, do you feel like Han Solo, the character that you know, would have ignited the lightsaber to help his son complete the task he was appointed to do by Snoke there?
In that particular moment, Han Solo is a different guy than he was in the original series. He's now a dad. Mm-hmm. And while I'm not a father, you talk to enough people, you had enough emotional interactions with dads to know that having a child changes you. And I think in that moment, he's probably the best dad there ever was, because he's standing toe to toe with the biggest villain, and he's trying to coax him back to the good side. So in that moment, I think he would have done whatever it took to bring his son to the light. I really do.
Mm. And it just pushed him further. Oh my goodness, that's tough. Yeah, I was just getting your opinion on that. You know what I mean? And so I'm just curious, who is your favorite character in Star Wars universe?
Han Solo all the way.
Han Solo all the way?
Without a doubt.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah. That's why I had high hopes for Solo, and not that it disappointed, but I realized sort of midway through the film that without Harrison Ford as Solo, the character changed a bit.
Yes.
And there was this really sketchy trailer someone cut together that had put Han Solo's face on all the shots. And I was actually getting into it. I'm like, yeah, this could work.
You're like, yes, fan film.
Yeah, so somebody's going to scan his face and do the Marvel thing and, totally facial replace that someday.
I think we talked about that on one of the podcasts. Like, what if the young man, Alden Ehrenreich, right, played the part, but Lucasfilm digitized Harrison Ford's face onto the actor, I didn't know how people would take that.
They'd
but
be like, what's his name all over again? Play Vader, right?
Who?
Well, they would never have cast that guy.
Vader. Never mind.
I don't know who you're talking about.
They casted one guy to play Vader's voice, and then they voiced over it. He didn't know until the
Yeah,
movie came
you're
out.
talking about David Prowse.
There you go.
Yeah. Who's been blackballed, but that's another story.
That sure is. Yeah, I actually watched. He has a documentary on Netflix right now called "I Am Your Father." Have you seen that, Rob?
No.
It's actually pretty good. It's pretty good. They can't show it on screen. I don't want to give anything away, but they recreate the scene where Luke takes off Vader's helmet, and it's Dave Prowse that's under the mask instead of Sebastian Shaw. Like I said, they got the suit, and sounds like they went all out for it just to recreate that scene, and put it for. Not people, but it was a closed session where some people could watch that. So I'm curious if that ever is going to get out somehow. You know what I mean? Get leaked somewhere. But
he shot himself in the foot. I think there's professional decorum in the acting world, and he really went against it. That's
the whole thing. You know what I mean? That's too bad for him.
But he was a lover scorned at that point because he had been promised all those years, and he was telling everybody he's Darth Vader, and then the movie comes out and it's not his voice because he had like a high pitched British voice, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
It's like, oh no, a minute, yeah. I'm Darth Vader.
That was pretty good.
So that being said, he didn't fit the part, but it is what it is. I don't remember our original question now, but
I don't even remember it either.
He follows my Instagram, so it's kind of funny. But I feel bad for the guy. If he's listening, I really feel bad that it didn't go the way he hoped, because there's nothing worse than getting your hopes dashed. He took it hard.
Oh yeah. I think George Lucas really just totally he doesn't exist anymore, kind of thing. So at least
David really says some awful things.
Yeah. So, oh man. Well, we're hitting close to 2:00. That's almost 2 hours.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness gracious! It went by too fast. It always does.
Always.
Oh my gosh. Well, Rob, do you have any questions for us, or I don't know if you want to let everybody else know again where they can find your artwork, how to connect with you, what you're working on right now. You have a fantastic piece right over your shoulder. Maybe you can talk to us a little bit about that.
Basically, if you want to know anything about me, robkazart.com or Instagram. If you just search Rob Kaz, you'll find me, at least for a little while, until this film, Kaz, don't type, jeez. My handle is usually Rob Kaz Art, so you can find Instagram, Twitter. I think we're doing Vero, Snapchat. We're trying to get out there as much as anybody. But my website is a pretty condensed source for a lot of stuff, including where to find me. So if you go there, but like I said, I go to Comic-Con. I definitely am a fan. You'll see me around the Disney World area a lot, maybe even Disneyland coming up here. But in all honesty, it's a new age of art where you don't have to go anywhere. You can sit in your living room and just be on Instagram, and you could be world famous. So
Absolutely.
not that I am. I'm just saying somebody could.
One of these days, you will be.
You
Yes, you will be.
You're supposed to have the evil laughter.
It is your destiny. Well, Rob, we appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks again. It's been a great honor getting your input on Galaxy from far, far away. We hope you've had a fun time with us today.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rob.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. So, and for all our fans out there, this has been episode 33 of the Force Choke podcast.
3-3.
The council has spoken. Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate it,
Appreciate
Rob.
it.
Thank you for
Thank
being
you,
here.
Rob.
Thanks, Rob.